I stand in a dark cavernous chamber, my breath shallow, echoing against the cold stone walls. Shadows flicker wildly, cast by a solitary torch mounted on the far wall. I hear it again, the clinking of chains. Not just one chain, but dozens, their sharp metallic echoes bouncing like taunts in the oppressive silence. The air is thick, oppressive, as if laden with secrets too heavy to bear. My voice trembles as I address the camera. Here we begin our journey into the forgotten folds of Africa's rich oral tradition. A tale so haunting, so deeply etched in the marrow of human existence, that it will unchain truths buried for centuries. This is the story of Bound by Chains, Liberated by Truth. I turn slowly, the sound of my footsteps mingling with the faint groan of unseen chains. The tension grows as the frame pounds to a mural etched into the wall, a depiction of a man, bound hand and foot, his mouth open in a silent scream. Fade to a serene African village at dusk. The vibrant sounds of life fill the air, children laughing, women singing as they grind millet, and men returning from the hunt. Once, in the heart of the great savannah, there thrived a village called Tamberi. Known for its unyielding pride and unbroken lineage, it stood as a beacon of prosperity until the curse came. Now, it is night, and the village is unnaturally silent. A young boy, Kofi, hiding behind a wooden fence. His wide eyes betray his fear. An ominous voice calls his name from the darkness, a guttural whisper that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Kofi. Kofi, step forward, child of Tamberi. The curse of Tamberi began with the breaking of a sacred vow. But no one knew who had broken it, only that the ancestors had unleashed a punishment for which there was no escape. In a dimly lit hut, Kofi's grandmother, Mama Boko, sits before a fire. Her face is a map of wrinkles, each line a story untold. Her trembling hands clutch a string of prayer beads as she chants in a low, rhythmic voice. Kofi's mother paces behind her, wringing her hands. The people of Tamberi were bound, not by physical chains, but by silence. The elders whispered that speaking of the curse gave it strength and that naming the truth would bring ruin. And so, the villagers bore their fear in quiet agony. Mama Boko as her chant falters. Her eyes dart to the shadows at the edge of the hut, where the faint outline of chains seems to shimmer. A single tear rolls down her cheek. Daylight floods the screen as Kofi, now determined, ventures into the forest alone. He carries a small talisman around his neck, given to him by Mama Boko. The forest is alive with sounds, birds chirping, leaves rustling, but an undercurrent of unease permeates the air. Kofi's heart pounded as he stepped deeper into the forbidden forest. It was said that those who entered without the ancestors' blessing would never return. But Kofi carried a burden heavier than fear, the need for truth. He stumbles upon an ancient shrine, overgrown with vines. At its center lies a rusted chain, coiled like a serpent. As Kofi reaches out to touch it, the ground trembles, and a deep voice booms. Who dares disturb the chains of Tamberi? The screen cuts to black, leaving only the sound of Kofi's ragged breathing. The scene returns to the village. Kofi, visibly shaken, bursts into a gathering of elders. He holds the rusted chain aloft, its links glowing faintly. The villagers gasp, their whispers rising like a crescendo. I know the truth. Kofi cries. The curse, it is not from the ancestors. It is from us. Now to the elders, their faces are a mix of shock and guilt. Mama Boko collapses to her knees, wailing. The chains were forged by our lies, Kofi continues. Our silence has fed them. And now they bind us. The village erupts into chaos. Some villagers beg for forgiveness, while others accuse each other of betrayal. Kofi stands resolute, the chain glowing brighter in his hands. A violent storm engulfs the village. Lightning splits the sky as the chains rise, serpentine and menacing, from the ground. They lash out, binding the villagers who cling to their lies. The chains were not just symbols. They were alive, feeding on the deceit and fear of the people. To break them, the villagers had to face the truth, no matter how painful. Kofi steps forward, the talisman in his hand glowing as he chants the ancestral prayer taught by Momoboko. The chains recoil, riding like wounded beasts. But as the storm reaches its climax, the screen fades to black. Not all chains can be broken. Some truths demand more than courage, they demand sacrifice. The village at dawn. The storm has passed, but the air remains heavy. Kofi stands at the edge of the forest, his eyes fixed on the horizon. In his hand is a single chain link, glowing faintly. The village of Tamberi learned that liberation comes at a cost. But what of Kofi? Bound by the truth he uncovered, his journey had only begun. This is where our story pauses, but the echoes linger. What truths bind you? And what price would you pay for freedom? Bound by Chains sequel. The Chains of Legacy. Legacy that is built upon the mysteries and sacrifices of the original story. I step into the forest, the dense canopy above swallowing most of the moonlight. The air feels heavy, thick with mist, and I can hear it, the faint, haunting sound of chains rattling in the distance. Each step I take feels heavier than the last, as if the ground itself resists my passage. In my hand, the chain link glows faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. My own breath is shallow, betraying the fear I try to suppress. The curse of Tamberi is gone, I tell myself. But these chains, they are far from broken. The whispers begin, low and indistinct, but growing louder with every step. Shadows flicker at the edges of my vision, and I feel like I'm being watched. The glow in my hand intensifies, guiding me deeper into the unknown. Morning comes, and I'm back in the village, though it feels like I've returned to a different world. The storm left its mark, roofs are broken, trees lie uprooted, and villagers are hard at work clearing debris. Despite the damage, there's a strange sense of hope in the air, like the sun rising after an endless night. I hear Momoboko's voice above the chatter in the square. She stands tall, addressing the villagers. We owe Kofi more than thanks, she says. We owe him our future. I stand at the edge of the square, watching from the shadows. They speak of hope and rebuilding, but all I can think about is the forest and the glow of the chain link still tucked in my pocket. I'm back in the forest, drawn to the clearing like a moth to flame. At its center stands an ancient stone monolith, its surface covered in strange, unreadable inscriptions. The glow from the chain link is almost blinding now, as if it's alive and desperate to escape my grasp. Then I hear it, the voice, deep and resonant, echoing all around me. You have disturbed the balance, child of Tamberi. I freeze, my heart pounding in my chest. Who are you? I manage to whisper. What do you want from me? The monolith begins to glow faintly, and a shadowy figure emerges from it. Its form is indistinct, shifting like smoke, but its presence is undeniable. You carry the truth, it says. But truth alone cannot mend what has been broken. Back in the village, I sit with Momoboko and the elders in the dim light of her hut. Her hands tremble as she unrolls an ancient scroll, its parchment yellowed and brittle. The room is silent, save for the faint rustling of the scroll. This is the story of the chains, she says, her voice heavy with sorrow. A story we kept hidden, thinking it would protect you. The scroll tells of a pact made generations ago, when the villagers forged the chains themselves, binding their loyalty and secrecy in blood. My chest tightens as I read the words, the weight of the truth pressing down on me. The shadowy figure from the monolith is back, guiding me through visions of the past. I see villagers toiling under the sun, forging the chains with iron and pain. Their faces are grim, their screams of anguish echoing in my ears. This is the legacy you inherit, the figure says, its voice like thunder. The chains were born of desperation, not divinity. The visions blur and twist, and I'm left standing alone, the chain link in my hand growing colder. What am I supposed to do with this? I ask aloud, but the figure is gone. When I return to the village, I feel like a stranger. The villagers look at me with a mix of gratitude and fear, as if I've become something they can't fully understand. I confront Mama Boko and the elders in the square, holding up the glowing chain link. Why didn't you tell us? I demand. Why did you let us believe this was the work of the ancestors? Mama Boko's shoulders sag, and she looks at me with tear-filled eyes. We thought we could protect you, she says. We thought the truth was too heavy for your generation to bear. That night, the village is gripped by a new terror. Chains appear in the streets, riding like serpents. They target those who cling to lies, binding them in place. The screams of the villagers fill the air as they scramble for safety. I step forward, clutching the chain link tightly. This isn't the ancestors' doing, I shout. This is us. We did this, and we have to fix it. The chains seem to recoil slightly, as if they are listening. In the village square, I lead a ceremony unlike any before. I call for every villager to speak their truth, no matter how painful or shameful. One by one, they come forward, their confessions raw and heartfelt. As they speak, the chains lose their glow and crumble to dust. The shadowy figure reappears, its form more solid now, almost human. The chains cannot be fully destroyed without a final sacrifice, it says. One must carry the burden, binding the truth so others may live free. I know what it means. I look to the villagers, then down at the chain link in my hand. If this is what it takes, I say, then I'll do it. The chains rise from the ground, wrapping around me like a cocoon. I feel their weight, but also their purpose. The villagers watch in silence as I disappear into the forest. Years later, the village thrives, free from the curse. Children play in the fields, their laughter ringing through the air. Mama Boko, now frail, sits beneath a tree, telling the story of my sacrifice. Kofi gave us our future, she says, her voice soft but steady. And though he's gone, his spirit remains. The forest, where a faint glow emanates from its depths. The sound of chains echoes softly, a reminder that some burdens are carried in silence. The chains are gone, but the story remains. What will you do when your truth binds you? Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe, like and share. See you in the next video.